What's up, y'all, and welcome back to the Jimmy Boy Hour. I am your host, Omarcomin, and it's been quite some time. As you can hear, I'm a little bit under the weather. I don't think it's COVID related, but who knows. So I got a little more time on my hands, so I'm going to try and do a little video battle report for you here. Got a game last night against OgreKhan, who I think is a pretty popular player on UB, judging by the number of people who dropped in on our game. Sylvan Elves player had a really interesting list. It's almost all cavalry. In fact, all cavalry if you include the flyers. So a little bit of a strange one for an all infantry list, but I think we had a pretty good game as a result of it. So you see here we're at deployment, and I might just pause the video so I can talk a little bit more about deployment. Basically, I refused the right hand flank. This was a dawn attack deployment, so the one with the corners that are cut out, and then the objective is breakthrough, so get your scoring units into the other opponent's deployment. So I wanted him to sort of deploy. I got to choose deployment side, so I wanted him to deploy around that house and have to deal with the ruins and the impassable in the center, and I wanted to deny him that forest on the right side, the east side, as Hermanard likes to say. So mainly deployed in the center, and then left one or two small units to deal with whatever he sent around the eastern flank. Here you'll see I'm still having issues with screenshots and paint. If anyone has a suggestion, that would be great. But here we're at the end of Dwarf's turn 1. So I was given turn 1 by my opponent, who I think thought I would shuffle forward more than I did and give him a bunch of beefy charges. So here's what I left him with. Shuffled up about 6 or 7 inches in the center to give him attractive charges, but not auto charges. Magic phase, I got pretty good result with 3 spells in, and in shooting I don't think I did much of anything this round. It looks like I chipped off one of the wild huntsmen on the left hand side, on the west side, and I may have done another wound onto the right on the east chieftain that the rangers on that side are shooting at. I think both cannons missed. Obviously no combat, and I think it doesn't quite get interesting until turn 3, or I guess Sylvan Elf's turn 2. So here we see my opponent's movement, his turn 2. He moves up, starts trying to expose my flank in the west, and pushes up pretty aggressively with his chieftain in the east. You see he gets right up in the face of my rangers on that side. I'm avoiding that forest in the center, and I think he's trying to bait me into there so that I have disrupted ranks, and he's got all his other forest bonuses. He uses his tree singing spell in magic phase to move the forest towards me even further, so that was kind of an interesting move. Other than that, he didn't get anything else off in his magic phase, and he has no shooting to speak of, so make it out of this one unscathed. But now we have some hard choices to make because the western flank is exposed. We are hopelessly outnumbered on the eastern flank, and so here is what I do. Try to set a couple traps, maybe set some for myself, and give him some offers. So in my charges, this is my turn, so I actually charged with my rangers on the eastern flank against that chieftain, thinking he was fearless. There's a wild hunt upgrade I think they can buy, any elk riders, and he actually didn't have that. It was just a misunderstanding on my part. Thought he would have to stay and face me with shields and with the devastating charge. I thought I would win the fight, and I certainly didn't want to take the devastating charge from them even with the stand and shoot. So in fact I wouldn't have had a stand and shoot, he was too close. Anyway, shuffled up, trying to offer flanks where I could. Chipped off a couple more wounds on the Heath Riders and shooting and left. It doesn't look like I got anything in magic here. And just tried to stagger my units, so if he did charge with his wide cavalry units, they would overrun flanks, and obviously this is the result. So this is the clusterfuck that resulted in the subsequent turn. So from the left-hand side, his lord tried to charge the warriors who were in front. Oh god, the sequence here is all out of control. Basically the result was the warriors, one of the units of warriors in the west fled. A unit of Kingsguard in the west fled. 2 units of Kingsguard in the west fled, and one of them pops out the far side of the general's unit, the spear unit with the marker on it. And he had, as a result, 1 or 2 failed charges. My stand and shoot from the Rangers on the Wild Huntsman, the 3 unit there, caused a panic, in fact. He did get a flank charge with his Heath Riders in the center in the forest. And his BSB unit did reach that warrior unit in the center, as well as those Wild Huntsmen also reached the warrior unit in the center next to the impassable terrain. So that was what we were dealing with in close combat, was those 2 units with overruns into the Kingsguard and into my general's unit. And then on the east, this is his general's unit in the east charging into my warrior unit, which stayed. I was hoping that I could get another round of shooting at the fleeing chieftain once he rallied, etc. So I was trying to keep that general's unit busy. I'm pretty sure he was hungry for my cannons and wasn't going to stop until he got into my back line. That is a scoring unit, so that's one of his few chances to try to take this objective off me, and I think he was keen to take that clear route back there. Let's see. This is how it all resolved. I believe this is the end of Sylvan Elves' turn 2. So you see in the center, both warrior units collapsed under the massive numbers of attacks these cavalry units have. The Wild Huntsman did take 2 dangerous terrains from charging out of those ruins, so that was pretty sweet. And their overruns led them directly into my spear unit and directly into the face of a waiting Kingsguard unit. And of course I had set up a flanking unit up on the hill, so that Kingsguard unit now has a clear flank charge into the flank of his BSB unit, and that is going to end very badly for him. In the center, the warriors managed to stick on, I think, a leadership 5 rerollable, so that was pretty sweet, but they failed to reform, so they're still going to be in the flank. You see failed charges all over the place. Right, so this is the end of my turn. I believe this had been turn 3. My turn 3, so the Kingsguard charged the BSB unit, and alongside the spear unit that managed to get resilience in, we absolutely demolished that BSB unit. Unfortunately, my Kingsguard on the flank failed the 7-inch overrun into the flank of the waiting Wild Huntsman, so they're sort of stuck flank on in front of my spear unit, which is not ideal. The miners did appear in my turn and killed the remaining Wild Huntsmen who were fleeing down here in the southwest, and that caused the Druids unit to flee into the center of the map. So that unit is currently fleeing towards my general and towards basically the bulk of my army. Yeah, we're sort of jumping ahead here now. That's unfortunate, but you see what happens. The chieftain in the west and the Heath Riders charged that warrior unit and decimated it, obviously, which caused my Rangers, unfortunately, to panic off the field. So they failed with a leadership 12 and ran off the field. But my Kingsguard are going to mop up those Heath Riders. He charged my cannon over here in the west, which gave my waiting Kingsguard in the north pretty short charge into them, so they're going to have devastating charge against them, but they're not going to have it in return, I think. If someone wants to correct me on that, that would be great. But that Kingsguard unit should make pretty short work of that waiting Heath Riders unit. And now from here, I have a flank charge on these Wild Riders in the center who tried to catch the fleeing warrior unit from the center of the map from that forest fight. And I guess we're done. I'm out of time, but I hope you enjoyed this. We called the game there. OgreKhan had to take off, and unfortunately I think this was going to be a pretty major loss for him with all of his scoring units eliminated, assuming that Kingsguard fight goes the way I expect it to. I would have a couple opportunities to cast some magic spells into that fight, so it should go favorably for me. I already have one scoring unit in his deployment, and the Rangers are close enough to make it 2, and I can likely charge a third unit of Kingsguard to there to make it overwhelmingly in my favor, and pretty close to tabling him. I think he'll have 1 or 2 chieftains still kicking around at the end of things. So with that, I'm pretty happy with how this one went. It's a weird balance to try to play really aggressively with that warrior screen. Obviously you're trying to create opportunities for your opponent to come to you and give you counter charges when they do come, but you also kind of have to balance what those counter charges are going to mean. Like if you take them all without support, you're going to be in real trouble. So you kind of need to have your traps set up and overlapping flanks and all of that other kind of stuff, so that when those charges do happen, you're in a position to take advantage. So I think I did a pretty good job here. Maybe my opponent's eyes were bigger than his stomach, and he could have worked around my flanks a bit more before charging, but I think if he let me take much more room in the center of the map, I was going to run him over, and he needed his devastating charges to do pretty much anything in this contest. He did have some pretty tough luck with leadership tests. His whole army's on a leadership 9, and I think he failed 3 or 4 panic tests, but that is the game, right? If you're going to spread out with a whole army of cavalry, you should expect, especially Resilience 3 cavalry, you should expect a lot of panic checks. So don't have a ton of sympathy, but you hate to see anyone miss 3 or 4 leadership 9 tests in a row that change the face of the battle quite a bit. All in all, I'm pretty happy with how things went. Thanks for watching. Stay Jimmy, boys.